It all begins 17 years ago,
with some capuchin monkeys made with CGI and the first Easter egg, a helicopter, model Augusta Westland AW109E, power a leak, same as the one in Jurassic Park 1.
Now we find ourselves on St. Hubert Island in the InGen laboratories, where genetic mutations are being experimented with for Jurassic World's park. We find, for example, a cross between a velociraptor and a pteranodon. Inside the laboratory, we see a scientist eating a Snickers, making reference to a key theory of the franchise, Dr. Ian Malcolm's chaos theory. The wrapper causes a short circuit that forces the system to reboot. This unleashes the island's most dangerous mutation, the Distortus Rex.
Most of the scientists manage to escape. However, the one who dropped the wrapper becomes trapped inside the Distortus enclosure, while we hear Alexandra Desplat in the soundtrack, becoming the first victim in the movie. We see the movie's logo moving away from the screen, the opposite of what we saw in the previous film, Jurassic World Dominion. This suggests that this movie is very different from the last one, and also that there are fewer and fewer dinosaurs in populated areas.
As the movie progresses, we will review the details that you may have overlooked. The events of the movie take place 5 years after Dominion, that is, between 2027 and 2028. We find Martin Krebs, played by Rupert Friend, stuck in traffic because of Bill, the last living Apatosaurus in the Northern Hemisphere. We can see it has been spray painted with graffiti while agonizing, poor animal. In a moment of distraction, the mercenary Zora Bennett, played by Scarlett Johansson, slips into the car. She questions the mission, but initially rejects the offer. When Krebs mentions the fortune he's about to make, her stance shifts, and she decides to join.
Get rich.
Now we find ourselves in the museum, a reference to the first movie. Here we find Dr. Henry Loomis, played by Jonathan Bailey, who is advising Parker Genix, the pharmaceutical company Krebs works for. They want to develop a drug that prevents heart problems, and in the meantime, they need DNA from the 3 largest dinosaurs.
Mosasaurus, which lives in the ocean. Titanosaurus. You'll find them on land. Quetzalcoatlus is the largest pterosaur.
While they talk, pay attention to the screen in the background. It will make sense later. We head to Suriname with the legendary score by John Williams. In this sequence, we find many references: the Dunkleosteus, microdinosaurs, the movie 1 million years BC, and Megalodon jaws. Here we meet the rest of the team, Duncan Kincaid and his crew, all of whom agreed to join without knowing what awaits them.
So when we leave it?
Now, Krebs explains that when InGen went bankrupt after the events of Jurassic World, Parker Genix bought various shares of the company, including the tracking codes for the dinosaurs, among them the Mosasaurus. We also see Bobby with a special weapon that contains a neurotoxin, just like we saw in Jurassic Park: The Lost World. And the device that collects the blood samples.
In every movie of the saga, there is a family. This time, we find the Delgado family. Ruben, Isabella, Teresa, and Teresa's boyfriend, Xavier.
You don't see the side of him that I see.
The naked side.
They are the first to encounter the Mosasaurus,
Sails.
which attacks their sailboat, mistaking it for a rival. In the background, some Spinosaurus can also be seen. director Gareth Edwards confirmed that the Mosasaurus scenes are inspired by Steven Spielberg's Jaws movie. Let's return to our protagonists. Duncan Kincaid hears the Delgado family's distress call and rescues them.
A long tail region with a downcurved end.
Look, man, that's what it is. What else could it be?
Though not without first scolding them. Suddenly, the Mosasaurus finds them, creating a massive wave that causes Zora to miss her shot. The creature then attacks the boat, attempting to devour Zora and Dr. Loomis. On the second attempt, they manage to successfully extract the sample and store it in a secure location. Loomis suggests to Zora that they release the blood samples to the public so everyone can have access to the medicine. Suddenly, the Spinosaurus return, aiding the Mosasaurus in the hunt. Their skin is so thick that Bobby's weapon has no effect. Bobby gets distracted, and a Spinosaurus attacks him from behind, becoming the second victim of the movie. In a nod to the first film, when a velociraptor ambushed a guard. After the Mosasaurus attack, Isabella is about to fall into the sea if not for Reuben, who slides in to grab her, breaking his leg in the process. Krebs tries to stop Teresa to call for help on the radio, causing her to slip and fall into the sea. Xavier immediately jumps after her, followed by Reuben and Isabella. The Mosasaurus pushes the boat toward the rocks, almost causing it to wreck. Most of the crew abandon the ship just before it runs aground on the coast. On land, the danger continues. A Spinosaurus, hidden among the rocks, kills Nina while she's gathering supplies, the third victim in the movie. Being mutations, they have the ability to camouflage, just as seen in earlier films of the saga. Krebs explains that genetic experiments were carried out on the island, each costing $72 million. The next day, a team will arrive by helicopter for a few minutes to pick them up, following Zora's orders. Teresa reunites with Xavier and confesses that Krebs tried to kill her. We're treated to spectacular shots of the island. They find tubes carrying geothermal energy. Isabella encounters a small dinosaur, a mutation.
Reuben calms Isabella by explaining that it is a herbivorous dinosaur. Reuben and Xavier interact more.
Let's do this. Like going that way, though.
Xavier wanders off from the group to relieve himself, only to be stalked by two velociraptors. Out of nowhere, a Mutadon scares them off, giving Xavier a tremendous fright. Yet he keeps on urinating. They must head toward the center of the island, as the Titanosaurs dwell in the valley. Dr. Loomis mentions that he once studied under Alan Grant from Jurassic Park. Krebs bends down to collect water and finds a soldier's dog tags. When he turns around, he sees the helicopter from the beginning of the movie, crashed atop the treetops. Inside, Krebs discovers a weapon. In the valley, the protagonists are reminded that although Titanosaurs are herbivores, their predators are not, and they must move with caution. The Titanosaur sequence is a direct homage to the first film of the saga. and one of the movie's most breathtaking scenes. Here, Jonathan Bailey performs a clarinet solo that blends seamlessly with the film's score.
The entire team is captivated by the majesty of these animals. Even Dr. Loomis approaches one and touches it with his hand, feeling deeply moved. Zora takes the opportunity to obtain the second blood sample. A large herd of these beautiful animals can be seen. Then they place in the security case.
The Delgado family continues searching for the island's facilities to find shelter. But in a careless moment, they tumble down a ravine. Dolores the dinosaur senses danger in the area and moves to safety. Teresa spots a boat on the other side of the river that could help them move downstream. Approaching carefully, she notices a dead herbivorous dinosaur, the source of the stench. Suddenly, a scavenger dinosaur appears to attack her. This Dilophosaurus quickly realizes it too is in danger and flees. Just as a T-Rex, having just fed, rolls over from its nap beside its prey. When they reach the boat, Teresa realizes it is an abandoned half-built vessel. Exploring further, she finds an inflatable raft.
Teresa drags the inflatable raft very carefully, making sure not to wake the T-Rex.
The T-Rex sequence is lifted directly from Michael Crichton's original novel, where a Rex is asleep after hunting a herbivore, then wakes up as the raft drifts by. We see the Rex being overflown by a Parapterodon, mirroring the museum screens shown earlier.
The Delgado family hurries to get on the raft, trying to make as little noise as possible.
At first, it follows them on foot, then dives into the water, propelling itself with its tail. It overtakes them by swimming and, with a powerful headbutt, capsizes the raft, throwing everyone into the water. Seeing they survived, it attacks again, focusing on Reuben, nearly devouring him underwater.
Somehow, Reuben narrowly escapes and manages to reach safety behind a rocky formation, together with Teresa and Xavier.
The Rex then shifts its fury to the raft, protected of course by the power of the script.
Here we find Isabella, who cannot swim. The T-Rex hears her cries for help and tries to overturn the raft, then bites it violently. While it attacks, Isabella floats to safety and manages to join her family.
Unable to continue the chase due to a rocky formation, the T-Rex is left behind.
The T-Rex gives up, and the raft emerges from the river. Back with Zora and her team, they find themselves in predator territory, about to collect the third sample.
The Quetzalcoatlus sequence is a direct reference to the Indiana Jones saga. It is far easier to obtain egg samples than from a full-grown adult, carnivorous, and the size of an F-16.
The view from there is breathtaking.
Leclerc, Zora, and Henry descend into what appears to be an ancient temple.
They descend among rocks and waterfalls. Meanwhile, Duncan finds some ancient stairs.
Where they discover a nest full of eggs.
While Zora and Loomis collect the third sample, Leclerc is outside extracting samples from the rocks, unaware that he is not alone. The Quetzalcoatlus flies just inches above him and enters the nest where the scientists are, fiercely defending its territory. The third sample is right beneath their feet, and Loomis tries to retrieve it.
Here, Leclerc sacrifices himself for the group, distracting the Quetzalcoatlus so that Zora and Loomis can escape.
The dinosaur tries to grab him and begins climbing the wall where Kincaid and Krebs are pulling Leclerc up. Loomis manages to get the sample, but doesn't realize that his rope has become tangled around the bird's leg, pushing him toward the abyss. It would have been the end for him if not for Zora, who manages to grab his rope and prevent him from falling. The sample moves just inches from the edge of the precipice. The Quetzalcoatlus chases Leclerc and even pecks at his foot. By the time Kincaid and Krebs realize the terrible truth, it is too late. The Quetzalcoatlus devours Leclerc alive, and we even see him being swallowed. Now, it focuses its attention on Krebs and Kincaid, who narrowly escape its sharp beak. They take refuge on the stairs that Kincaid discovered earlier. Meanwhile, Loomis manages to grab the sample, but it slips from his hands as his rope snaps from the friction. He grabs onto a rock, but inevitably falls into the void, seemingly meeting his end. Some plants cushion his fall, and he is finally stopped by the water, where a few compy dinosaurs are waiting, allowing him to survive. The rest of the team reunites with him as the sample lands intact in its parachute. With that, they secure the third sample.
We return to the Delgado family, still drifting downstream on the raft. On their faces, we see worry and anguish as the wild fauna and flora of St. Hubert accompany their journey. At last, the river ends, and they arrive at the facilities at the same time as the other protagonists. A massive excavator, a remnant from the film's deleted scenes, can be seen, along with the helipad.
I see the helipad.
Finally, the two groups reunite. The truth is revealed. Krebs let Teresa fall. But suddenly, he reappears, armed with the weapon he had recovered from the crashed helicopter at the beginning of the film, gaining the upper hand. He seizes the secure case containing the 3 blood samples and handcuffs it to his wrist. It is here that the family learns a helicopter is coming to rescue them. Isabella urges them to stay quiet, but then a generator rumbles to life.
It's a generator.
The generator sounds angry.
The complex lights up again, just as 2 Mutadons appear, ready to devour the group. The first lunges at Kincaid and Loomis, while the second attacks the family, forcing them to seek refuge inside an abandoned supply tent, leaving Zora and Krebs outside. Kincaid and Loomis find shelter at the entrance of the InGen laboratory seen at the start of the movie. Meanwhile, one of the Mutadons spots Zora, who slides under an old InGen truck, only to find herself face to face with Krebs. He raises his weapon and fires at the creature.
The Mutadon pulls Krebs out and throws him onto the truck.
The scene with the mutants is strongly reminiscent of the kitchen sequence from the first film. While the characters hide, a Mutadon drops in through the ceiling.
The Mutadon manages to enter the store while Isabella hides in a refrigerator.
Fogging up the glass door of a refrigerator.
Ruben distracts it by throwing a can to the other end of the store.
It drags its claw along the floor, echoing the velociraptor from the original.
While they hide behind a rack, they realize that there are ventilation ducts on the floor where they can hide.
When the protagonists crawl into the ventilation ducts to escape,
these ducts cross the entire island. Kincaid and Henry are in the laboratory where they find the 2-headed Mutadon from the beginning dead. They realize that there is a boat. Immediately, the rescue helicopter appears. While Kincaid leaves, Henry hears and sees the largest and most dangerous carnivorous dinosaur that the protagonists have faced so far pass by. The helicopter distracts the Mutadon, which Krebs takes advantage of to start the truck and escape while Zora flees into the forest. The Mutadon smells her but gets distracted by the sound of the family coming from the ducts and proceeds to slip into them. Zora goes after the Mutadon. The helicopter flies over but finds no signs of life, so Loomis signals and finds some flares. He lights one that the helicopter manages to spot and turns back. When the flare falls, something chilling is revealed.
Then the Distortus Rex appears. So massive it can seize a helicopter with its claws and hurl it through the air.
Now that the helicopter has been destroyed, the protagonists meet and hide in the ducts.
What about the helicopter?
No helicopter.
Krebs drives at full speed while the alarm of the security case sounds.
Zora manages to kill one with a gunshot, something no protagonist had accomplished in previous installments.
They reach the end of the ducts, but a gate blocks their way. No one can pass. A Mutadon finds them and tries to enter the duct. Isabella manages to cross the gate and reach the console to open it. Dolores senses the danger. The Distortus Rex has arrived. Isabella manages to open the gate. The Mutadon is about to enter the duct. Krebs' truck crashes into the Distortus. The team escapes and leaves the Mutadon inside. The Distortus uses its claws to catch Krebs, then devours him, dropping the security case. Zora recovers it and they flee. An alarm draws the Distortus' attention. Isabella is caught in the middle. Kincaid sacrifices himself, lighting a flare and drawing the Distortus' attention. Teresa rescues Isabella and Kincaid jumps into the river just in time as the Distortus lunges at him. Kincaid goes deep into the jungle, but the river ends and there is no escape for him. Zora releases the boat while Kincaid's flare goes out just in time. The Distortus returns and the boat manages to barely escape. Everyone cries and a flare lights up the sky. It's Kincaid who has survived because the Distortus could not see him after his flare went out. Everyone survives.
In the end, we are left with a disturbing revelation. Isabella takes the dinosaur Dolores away from St. Hubert Island. This is tragic, because as established at the beginning, most dinosaurs can't survive far from the equator due to climate change, and Dolores is taken to the United States.